If you're a coach who wants to sell your services using amazing testimonials, then stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing a bunch of tips for you on how you can get better testimonials in your business. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health, life and spiritual coaches get more clients, generate more income so they can live their most aligned life. And today on the show, we're talking all about how do we get amazing, incredible testimonials that help us sell our services in our coaching business. So I think most of us are probably quite familiar with the whole concept of what a testimonial is. Basically, a written or recorded statement that someone will give to describe their experience of working with you. Now, testimonials are amazing when it comes to selling our services. They can really help us in a multitude of ways, but there's actually quite a few things that we can do to improve the quality of the testimonials that we get so that we can therefore, again, improve how we sell, improve how we attract people into our offers. So in this episode of the show, I'm going to take you through a few tips that you can use to help improve the quality of your testimonials so that you can therefore go on and use those testimonials to help you sell your services better. So what makes a good testimonial? As I said, a testimonial can be a written or recorded statement that someone gives of their experience of working with you. Now, what we really want from a testimonial is we want a testimonial that really creates evidence and proof that you are getting the kind of results that you are saying that you help people get in your program and in your offers. So we want them to be authentic and believable. We want people to actually believe that people have had that experience of working with you. And we want them to be quite specific in terms of explaining how they have benefited, and I think that's a really important word there, benefited from working with you in your offer or service. So that's what we want from a really good testimonial is we want those key things to be there so that people read that testimonial, they feel that like they get that resonance from that person's testimonial and they believe the words that they're saying, and those words are hopefully saying how awesome it is to work with you and the key outcomes that they experienced from that process of working with you. We want that testimonial to provide evidence or proof that you are actually getting other people the results that you say that you are going to get them in your program. So that's what we're looking for. We're really looking for that match between what it is that your clients are telling you in their testimonials and what it is that you're saying that you can help people with in your program. In order to get testimonials like that, sometimes we need to ask some quite specific questions to get those answers, because people can have a wonderful experience of working with you and can give you a lovely testimonial, but sometimes they will not necessarily give us the detail that we need for our people to, again, be able to really see that evidence of the outcomes that we're capable of getting for people, basically. So to be getting those kind of testimonials, we need to be asking our clients some specific questions, which we're going to get onto in a second. But I think one of the first things we can do in order to get amazing testimonials is just to do really good work in our coaching business. That's the first really simple thing, is if we are doing our work well as coaches, if we are getting people results, then that is going to speak for themselves. And that's really the first part in all of this. If you want to get good testimonials, provide a good service, put everything that you can into it. As long as we are doing our work as the coach and really supporting people in the best way that we can, and obviously there's only so much we can ever do in a coaching relationship, the other person has got to meet us halfway. As long as we are doing the best that we can do, then that is going to be the best that we can do, essentially. But as long as we are doing that, as long as we are getting people good results, then the testimonials are going to speak for themselves. One of the things that we were always told when I was coaching as a health coach way back in 2012 was to under-promise and over-deliver. And I think that's a really good way to approach things. I've talked about this recently. I know I've had a few clients who have been concerned that they might be over-promising some of their results, because I think that's become such a norm in the coaching industry. And I think that's, again, the first part of this actually is just to be really honest about the kind of results that you typically get for people. Now, if you're a new coach, there might be a little bit of extrapolating that from practice clients. There might be a little bit of guesswork in there, and that's okay. I think we've all got to start somewhere. So it's really just about doing your best as a coach, getting people good results, learning from that process as you go. And that is the first part of it. Really good testimonials are going to naturally come out of that process. Another thing that we can do to get really good testimonials is to support our clients to feel safe. I think this is really important, and I've made some mistakes around this in the past in terms of we really want to be thinking about consent. So we want to make sure that anyone who has given us a testimonial is fully aware of where that testimonial might be shared and how it might be used in the future. And I think that's even more important when we are in the realms of the business to consumer space. Like the business to business space is slightly different. Most people are quite happy to like shout about their outcomes and the things that they've achieved. Whereas when you're talking to people around their health and other lifestyle stuff, like they might be less willing to have their face plastered all over your website and social media. So we need to make sure that they feel safe, that they feel heard, that they fully consent to however it is that you're going to use their testimonial. Sometimes that comes into making testimonials anonymous, and that's absolutely fine as well. We just need to really make sure that we are getting people's consent. Sometimes as well with social proof, and where I fell down, have I fell down here before? I feel like there was one occasion when someone gave me some really beautiful feedback in an email, and I shared that but didn't give their name. So I didn't give their name, but I shared the feedback on social media, and that person came back and said that was not okay. And I had to really fully hold my hands up and be like, yeah, that wasn't okay. Actually, I was really excited to get this amazing feedback. I really wanted to share it. I was so excited about sharing it. I just didn't stop and think that even though that feedback that they give me and the feedback that I shared was anonymous, that would make that person feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, and I should have thought about that. No one's perfect here, but we really need to be making sure that we get consent. And like I say, sometimes with social proof, which we'll get onto in a second, again, I think that's quite important, because if people are sharing things in your online spaces, they need to know like how that might be used and whether or not that might pop up somewhere. So I think it's really key to make people feel safe, to make sure that you are getting full consent in terms of how that testimonial is going to be used. And then when people feel safe, they're much more likely to be open, want to give you testimonials, want to shout about the results that you've helped them achieve from the rooftops, basically. So we need to be getting consent and making people feel safe. Another part of this as well is also making sure that you get consent to perhaps reword slightly someone's testimonial. Now, when I talk about the questions that you might want to ask people and how you might collect that feedback, that testimonial, sometimes it is necessary, and I do this in my business, is to edit slightly the response so that it becomes like a coherent statement rather than like a set of answers to questions. As long as you are obviously not changing the gist, the original energetic intent of that testimonial, I think that's okay. But again, it's worth mentioning that to your clients who are giving you testimonials so they don't feel like, oh, that's not actually what I said. You can obviously ask them to review the testimonial before you share it. If you do rearrange it, that's totally up to you. Again, it's just about really making sure that people feel good about sharing their feedback and you then sharing that onwards. And then on to questions. Now, again, depending on how you're collecting your testimonials, you might want to be asking some specific questions to help you get that information that you want that is going to make the testimonial like really zing when it comes to sharing that on your website and social media, etc. So I think one of the things that I always ask in my set of questions is, what tangible outcomes, benefits have you experienced as a result of working with me or in this program? Because what I want to drill down to, and sometimes I give examples like, have you booked more clients? Do you feel more confident? Things like that. And again, perhaps it's looking at the offer that you have, that person's in, like what kind of outcomes were you saying that you could help people achieve with that offer? And then giving them some of those examples. Have you experienced any of these things? And allowing them to then talk about that themselves in the response to that question. So I think having a question in there that really helps people focus on, okay, so what are the tangible benefits that I've experienced? Another thing actually that kind of goes back to the point that I was making earlier about giving people a really, really good service is sometimes what we might want to do throughout our coaching sessions, throughout that coaching program, particularly if it's one-to-one, is remind people of the wins that they are experiencing. Because sometimes it's really easy for people to just forget things, but actually in the sessions, if we are like constantly saying what's been a win, like what's shifted for you since our last session, what's gone well, if we are keeping people focused on that, then actually that's a really good way to help them remember all of the really positive outcomes that they've got. Because sometimes positive outcomes can be all sorts of different things. It can be a whole range of other really wonderful outcomes that people might experience, some that might be unexpected. So we want to collect that as well, but actually highlighting that as we go through that process with them of coaching is going to help when they come to do their testimonial at the end, because it's going to be fresh in their mind, particularly if you cover that in the final session that you have with them as well. So I always ask a question around tangible outcomes, benefits that they've experienced, and I often give some examples that are related to the outcomes that I say that I want to help people achieve in that program. I also ask a little bit about how they were experiencing things before they entered the program. What were they struggling with? What challenges did they have? How did life look for them? How were they feeling? Because again, when it comes to that authenticity and that resonance for people who are going to be reading those testimonials, that can be really interesting as well, because it helps to show the shift. It helps to show where the person was. And for people who are reading that testimonial, if they can relate to where that person was, perhaps where they are now, and see the shift that they've had, that's going to really help them make that decision to work with you. So I often ask a question about what was going on for you before we started working together. What was the struggles, the challenges? How did life look? What was going on there? So I often ask those two kind of questions in tandem, like together, because I think that's where you really get a lot of the juiciness that you want for your testimonials there. I often also ask a question, just a really general one. Is there anything that you want to talk about how it felt to work with me? And this is particularly useful in a one-to-one coaching program where you're getting feedback for that, because a lot of the magic sometimes that we bring in our coaching is us. And I've had some really just beautiful feedback from people over time in terms of the lovely things that they've said just about working with me as a person, and sometimes that can be really useful to share in a testimonial as well. So those are the three key questions that I ask in pretty much every set of feedback or testimonials that I ask for people, that I share. Obviously, that's dead simple if you are requesting your feedback in a form, but if you're asking for a video, I mean, you might also want to prep them a little bit and say, these are the kind of things that I would usually ask people. If you can touch on these points, that would be amazing. And also that makes it easier for them. They're not sitting there with their camera, but their phone switched on thinking, what do I say? Where do I start? Because you've given them some prompts. So that can be really useful too. And then when it comes to collecting your testimonials, because that's a big part of it as well, we can share stuff with people, but actually collecting the testimonials back is obviously a big part of making sure that you've got stuff to share. So when it comes to collecting your testimonials, I think forms are really great, obviously nice and simple. I tend to just use a plain Google form. Sometimes I'll also use the forms that are built into my client management system, Dubsado, and those forms have the option for someone to attach a photograph of themselves. So in an ideal world, what we'd all have is testimonials that have an image of the person and their name, because that makes them feel a lot more genuine and authentic. But sometimes, again, as I've said, that is not the case, because people don't want to be identified, they don't want to share a photo of themselves, and we have to respect that. So that's totally fine. Sometimes you can use like a stock image in place of someone else's photo and a fake name, but make sure that you are saying that's what they are, that you're not being misleading on your website. So make sure you've got like a little disclaimer that says stock image and fake name used to protect people's privacy, basically. So you can do that, and it just makes it look a bit nicer on your website, a bit more dynamic, but doesn't, it as long as you're very clear that it is not them, so that you're not misleading people. I think that's really important. But yes, I tend to just collect testimonials on a form. They're nice and straightforward. Again, what we want is that people are busy, and you can get people the best results in the world and still have to chase them up for testimonials and still have to go back to them and say, can you give us some feedback on this? Can you give me a testimonial? So we want to make it really simple. If we have some people that we've worked with who are happy to give a video testimonial, that could also be amazing, because you can transcribe that and use that as a written testimonial, but also share that in video. And we all know how powerful video is these days. So if anyone's willing to give a video testimonial, that can be amazing. You can just get them to whip the phone out and record on their phone and then just send you the file. Or you can use a system like Video Ask, which is a little bit more automated, where people can respond just directly using that system. So there's various options for it. I think it's all just about finding a system that works well for you and that makes it really simple for your clients. Like some people will just not do a video testimonial, and that's okay, whereas others will be happy to do. So sometimes it's worth exploring that with your client before you request a testimonial to see if they would be up for doing a video one. If not, that's fine. It's just about figuring out what is going to work for you and your clients. Another way that you can collect testimonials is through a third-party option like Google or Facebook. So if you have a Google My Business account, you can collect testimonials through there. People can leave you a review. And the same with Facebook, people can leave you a review on there. I'm going to talk a bit about how that might come into things, but that can be useful if you use any of those platforms in other ways for your business, then that can actually be quite useful. And especially if you are often found on Google via your Google My Business account, then that can be really helpful as well. And then when it comes to sharing your testimonials and where you can share them, so I think there's a few different places where you can share your testimonials to get maximum impact. Obviously on your website is a really great place. That can be within a sales page for the offer that person has participated in. It can be on your homepage. That can be scattered throughout your website if you like. You can share that on social media. You can share them in sales related content. So if you are creating quite focused sales related content marketing, something I cover in the Content Marketing for Coaches Club actually, then testimonials can work really well in there. You can also use testimonials in any printed marketing materials that you might create. Obviously social media as well. So quite a few different places where you can share your testimonials. Some people have a standalone testimonials page on their website. Personally, I prefer the approach of having testimonials scattered in really key places where people are making those purchasing decisions. I do like them on the homepage as well, but definitely on sales pages. Like in an ideal world, you would have a bunch of testimonials on each sales page. Not loads, because we don't want to overwhelm people. And this is sometimes where a carousel can work quite well and people can scroll through. But I think that tends to work really, really well when it comes to where to share those testimonials. And then let's talk a little bit about social proof. So social proof is basically like testimonials, but for some reason, they seem to have their own kind of magic. And I think it's because people see like the screenshot of a Facebook comment or of a Voxer message or a comment that someone's put on Instagram or in your DMs. And because it's like screenshot and it looks like it's from those platforms, it feels more, for some people, it feels more genuine than just saying a testimonial, and it feels like it can't be faked as easily. And at the end of the day, all of this stuff can be faked to a certain degree. We've got to rely on the integrity of the people that we're working with to make sure that it's not. But for some reason, social proof carries like a different weight, I think, when it comes to that evidence. This is all about really the evidence and the proof around, can you actually get people the results that you say that you can get them in your programs? And, you know, the more that we can prove that, I think the more we can demonstrate our value of that offer and things like that. So social proof can be really beneficial. Now, depending on how your business works, you might not actually have a lot of opportunities to collect social proof. Like for me in my business, I don't really have a lot of Facebook groups anymore. I've got one customer and client only Facebook group. Most of my discussions on Voxer are voice notes, so I can't like screenshot all the positive outcomes that people are getting, unfortunately. And sometimes that's just the way that your business is. However, there are things that you can do to generate more of that social proof. Again, we need to be really clear that we are getting people's consent before we screenshot and share things. And it might be that they want their name and stuff blurred out, and that's okay. But it might be that if you do have a Facebook group, that you can ask the question like, what are your wins this week? What have you found from working with me in my business? What's changed for you? What outcomes have you experienced? And what's been really beneficial? And actually ask questions that are going to drive that social proof to be generated in the comments. So I think that's a really good thing to think about. You Voxer your clients. In fact, I might do that after this episode. I might pop a few Voxers to some of my clients and say, would you mind sharing some of the benefits that you've experienced of working with me lately in text notes so I can screenshot them and use them as social proof, which just sounds a little bit, I don't know, but it's genuine. People are going to be sharing their actual outcomes. So those are just some things to think about with social proof. Also, what you can do as well is if you are using platforms like Google and Facebook for reviews, and it might be that you ask people at the collection stage if they can do a review on Google and Facebook and also give you a testimonial, like if they're happy to do so. And a lot of clients who have had a really great experience with you will be. Then you can screenshot those things and share them as a form of social proof, because again, they're going to be in that text, in that font, in that design that is associated with those platforms, which brings it a slightly different weightiness to that feedback, which it's one of those funny things, isn't it, our little human brains, how they relate to all of this kind of stuff. So that's social proof, and I think that really just form a really important part of your kind of strategy around collecting feedback and evidence, really. And this is what we want to be collecting as we grow our businesses, is can we collect the evidence and the feedback that we are getting people, the results that we are saying that we are going to get for people. And again, it's not that every single client is going to get the most amazing, incredible results, but we want to be getting people, obviously, we want to be getting people really good results, and we want to be over-delivering if we can. So we really want to be looking at that range of stuff that we can collect through our testimonials. And then finally, a last thing just to add in there, something that I try and do if I can, is my completely made up concept of testimonial karma. And that basically means if you want to get more good testimonials in your business, make sure that you are giving other people good testimonials in your business. Now, I'm not saying about giving people good testimonials if your experience of them has been shit. I'm saying just make the effort to actually give a testimonial if you've had a good experience with someone. I know that we're all busy. I know that we all have other things going on, but actually testimonials can be really helpful for business owners. You know, they're going to be for you. So sometimes for me, I just think if I give that out to the universe, and the universe is going to give me something back. So I always try, wherever possible, if there's an opportunity to give feedback, I will really try as hard as I can to make sure that I give feedback. And often, especially like if you're in the business world, you know what I mean? If people are linking back to your website because you give them a testimonial, or if you're showing up on people's testimonial pages and stuff, that can actually be really beneficial for you as well as the person who has supported you. So I think it's just a really nice thing. So that's testimonial karma. Make sure that you're giving other people testimonials as well. So I really hope that has been helpful. I hope it's given you lots of things to think about when it comes to collecting testimonials and all of that evidence and proof in your business. I'd love to know if this has been useful. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Thank you so much. And if you've got any feedback on this episode or on the show in general, please send me a DM to @wholeheartedlylaura. Again, spread the love. I always love getting some feedback. It's really appreciated. And yeah, I will see you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.